In sales, a lot of people don't realize it takes 7 no's to get a yes. When I started selling, we would just come out of the .com. 97, 98, 99 were huge in the market. The year I started selling, fell out. You do what's right for somebody, and they're going to go tell 2 or 3 people. But if you do what's wrong for somebody, they're going to go 10 people.
Yeah. What's more important, motivation or discipline?
Discipline. We were a full facilities manager that did everything from parking lot lighting, day porter service, filling potholes, covering up graffiti. You know, I've done advertising for 25 years, starting at Edward Jones, from having my name up on a billboard to shopping carts, like whatever, the best advertising. Sales is a grind. It can afford you amazing lifestyle, and it's a great career. I was afraid that we wouldn't get our stuff for like a month, so I stopped all that, got all my construction guys to come over and pack everything up professionally. If he can forgive me, then I can forgive me. But that's what really changed things, was I leaned into my faith.
There's one thing that all champions have in common. They get shit done. So welcome to the Get Shit Done experience. Well, we are back at it again. This is the Get Shit Done experience, and my Lord, do I have a story for you today. But before I do that, I want to thank all of you so much for liking, following, subscribing, rating, and reviewing. Tell a friend. Do it again, my gosh. Do it again. We are really having a great time here, and of course, we can't do that without your support, so thank you. Again, if you want to play along, go to www.gsdxpodcast.com. You can check out previous episodes. We have a YouTube channel. Whether you're taking this in on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, either one, if you would rate, review, subscribe, that would be great. Tell a friend. We'd really appreciate it. If you are interested in sponsoring episodes, please send an email to us. That's on our website. If you're interested in being a guest, we'd love to hear your story as well, so send us some information on that. But without further ado, I want to introduce you today to a gentleman who has been through the ups and downs. You are going to hear a story of somebody who has climbed to the top of the mountain, fallen off the top of the mountain, dusted himself off, climbed it again, fell off it again, dusted himself off, and is on the climb to the next level. This is a gentleman who's fought for our country. This is a gentleman who has been an entrepreneur and built up an empire of an organization. This is a gentleman who's a family man, and this is a gentleman who is about to take on something that is absolutely critical that he's fighting through, and he's going to do that with the grace of God, and he's on his way to the top. That person is Mr. JT, Joshua Thompson. What's up, man?
Johnny, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. All right, we got to get this origin story, baby. We got to get this origin story because this is a story, and we've met through LinkedIn. So those of you that don't know the power of social media, the power of social media is not only to get attention and awareness out there to talk about your brand and to tell your story, but it's also friendships and connections that you can make through that channel. And I'm blessed to have you in the studio today. And that connection came through supporting each other on LinkedIn. So thank you for that. Let's get into the origin story. Okay. So I want you to kind of take us back to childhood. Okay. What was that like?
So I grew up down in the cornfields of Central Illinois, and after high school, enlisted in the Navy, and left Peoria, Pekin area in 1996 for boot camp up in Great Lakes, and
North Chicago, yeah.
North Chicago in February.
Yeah.
Walking on the ground.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful weather. Yeah.
So that took me down to Mississippi at a Naval Air Station down there, and was stationed down there with a lot of naval aviators. I had the goal of being an aviator, and it wasn't until I took some tests in the Navy for flight school and realized that I was colorblind. And back then in 96, you couldn't get an exemption for it.
Yeah.
Now I believe they have lenses that will correct it. So anyway, I went a different path and was stationed there for a while. And then worked, I worked in a lot of different places. I wasn't a Navy SEAL, but I worked with some SEALs, and did that for 4 years. I was going to go.
And this is pre 9/11.
Yeah.
Right. This is pre 9/11.
Yep. So
but you caught the back end of it, right?
I did. Yeah. I enlisted in 96, and 2000, my enlistment was up. And I had a good CO, and he had let me go educate myself while I was on active duty. And they wanted to send me to law school and to take a commission and stay in the Navy. And I was going to go to BUD/S.
You're going to be a JAG.
I was going to go be a JAG for a SEAL team.
Yeah.
And I started getting recruited by some companies, and there was a company that one of my dad's friends worked for growing up, and he always made a lot of money. And I was like, "Hey, what's Mike do, Dad?" And he's like, "He's a stockbroker with Edward Jones." So, I got recruited by them and made the decision to end my naval career and go out there and chase the money.
There's always savings, but it's about way more than savings alone. Total Technology Solutions Group redefines managed print services. Excellence is the minimum standard. TTSG is a true managed print service provider, deeply understanding your technology and business goals. Your business is unique. Our solutions are tailored to your current and future business goals. Our customer-first approach empowers and delights. TTSG can ensure your technology environment will scale as your business does. So as you navigate business and constant change, partner with TTSG for premium advisement and seamless implementation of your technology goals. We set the bar high. Your people deserve it. Peace of mind, powerful innovation, TTSG.com. So while you're in the Navy, you're not stationed on top of a boat, like cleaning the deck. Like, you're seeing some action. So what type of action are you seeing during that time, that 4-year period?
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of joint type of missions with other branches. Worked with the Army a lot. Also did a lot of stuff with Marines. A lot of people know the Marines is a part of the Navy, so
Yeah.
they work very closely together. So saw some things, and I saw some things that caused PTSD.
Where were you
Had
stationed?
some experiences. I was stationed in Mississippi at a naval air station.
Okay.
I was out of there, and then we would go do like joint missions.
So would you go overseas on those missions? Or?
No, it was all pretty much in the States.
Okay.
We did some drug ops and things like that.
Yeah,
off the
okay.
coasts. And then I got stationed in Indianapolis at a naval armory.
Okay.
And that's where I ended my career. And that's where I got recruited by Edward Jones and decided to get out there and start a sales career, which I knew nothing about sales at all. I grew up, I was very shy.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the Navy I kind of, I did a lot of training sessions, so I would train. And that's where I started learning to speak in front of people and be more comfortable.
So it's not like in your DNA, right? Your dad worked for Caterpillar, right? So you come from Pekin, Illinois.
I come
right.
from very, very blue collar,
Yeah.
very humble beginnings.
So those of you that don't know, right, if you're around the country, like there's a town in the middle of the state of Illinois called Peoria. Pekin is just outside of Peoria. And pretty much like 50% of the population in some way, shape, or form is either working for Caterpillar or is farming or something to do with agriculture, right?
That's pretty much it.
So you're talking about a lot of blue collar, salt of the earth folks, right? Getting their hands dirty, doing their thing, raising families. And you were an athlete, right?
I was.
And you've got siblings, they were athletes.
Yeah, my
Right.
brother played football at Illinois State in the late 90s. I
He's a
was
Redbird.
I was going to go wrestle at Indiana University and ended up just going to the Navy. So yeah, I grew up playing football, basketball. Wrestling was my big sport. I didn't grow up around country club sports. Now it's just tennis and golf.
Yeah.
really, but I didn't get into that into my 30s.
So your brother and I don't know each other, but we were at Illinois State at the same time.
No kidding.
Yeah. So he was actually going to school and playing football. I was just there, I think. He probably didn't crack a book. Probably crossed.
I remember Daddy-O's.
Yeah, Cheetahs and the Pub 2 and all that stuff. Yeah, I made sure to make it to all those places. I just forgot to go to class, so that was a bit of a problem. So you get into sales, and it's like you're kind of shy, but you're an athlete, so you're competitive, right? So you get into this vibe, and this is late 90s, early 2000s. So you got you got the vibe going, right? You got the frosted tips, I'm sure, right? The hair spiked up with the gel.
That was NSYNC and Backstreet Boys.
Let's go, baby. So they hand you a territory, and they essentially go, hey, go find your way. And there's no leads. There's no appointment setters. There's no social media presence. There's none of that stuff. This is pretty much ground and pound. You eat what you kill, go knock on doors, find people that are interested, and convert. So how did you get good at that?
Well, I was terrible at it at first. So when you hire on, you train to study all the manuals to pass your Series 6, 63. So the first couple months I was just getting licensed up. And then they bring you down to the headquarters where the firm was headquartered at in St. Louis. And you literally, back in 1999, 2000, when I trained with them, they would have mock door frames set up, and you would grab a partner and they would tape you on VHS, and you'd see how shitty you sounded doing it. And it's, hey, I'm Josh. I'm with Edward Jones. Like you said, I got the frosted tips. Tell me about your finances.
Yeah.
But I just,
So are you getting the reaction from some of these folks here really like, all right, buddy, you're pulling up
some gray in your head.
Yeah, you're pulling up in the beat up car, right? And you're like,
no.
Hey, I can help you with the finances.
John, I would park and go work a whole entire neighborhood.
So they couldn't see your car.
And this was the summer of 2000.
Yeah.
It was an election year. They thought I was a politician.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. I'm in a suit. It's summertime. And I just took the approach, once I kind of got comfortable with it, I would just say, hey, my name's Josh. I set up an office here in downtown Plainfield, suburb of Indianapolis. And I've got a newsletter and would love to earn some of your business at some point and earn some trust. Can I put you on my monthly newsletter? It's got, different topics on, IRAs and investing and things like that. And I think just in sales, a lot of people don't realize it takes 7 no's to get a yes.
So you are super patient. Just get them to pay attention first.
Yeah. And some of those 3 hard no's, and then, we'll come in and see it turn into multi-million-dollar accounts once they knew I was going to be around and they trusted me.
Yeah. So I don't think that's changed. I think it still takes 7 to 12 touches, right, to get a sale. I think what's changed is the touches. I think what's changed is you can get touches through your social media presence. You can get touches through the content creation that you put out, from being on a podcast, sending people links, following their content, liking and commenting on their content. That's all that breaking the ice stuff that traditionally in sales we had to do by knocking on the door, introducing ourselves, getting them to follow a newsletter, right? Getting them to maybe go to a website if we had one at that point.
A newsletter with a picture of me.
Yeah, exactly. Like a picture of you in the corner, right?
Like a real estate.
Yeah, it's like you give them the squishy promo ball, the stress ball, so they remember you. So
one of the best mentors I had at Edward Jones said, it's the 1-2 punch. Go see them once a month, and then call them or send them something through the mail.
Yeah.
Now,
just stay in front of mine.
Stay in front. And when I was selling, we didn't even have email then. Jones didn't even operate off email. It was phone calls and getting in front of them.
Yeah. So difference then is when you were calling to a phone that was probably like that cream color phone with the long cord, and the phone rang and you just answered it. It was like back when we were growing up, the doorbell rang, you went and answered it, and you were kind of excited somebody was at the door. Now, like the phone rings, you look at the screen, I don't know that number, and you block it, right? Or now when the doorbell rings, you duck behind the couch and you're like, who is this? So it's a little bit different. People used to answer the phone. Now they don't answer the phone now. So I know that feeling of going and knocking door to door, going out and telling the story. You have to be really patient, but you got pretty good at it. Like, not pretty good. You got really good at it. So what were the keys to you getting really, really good at it? Was it your knowledge base? Like, did you continue to educate yourself and you became like a really strong advisor, or were you super influential and you were just able to provide amazing service? What was your thing that got you to where we'll tell the story about where you got to?
Yeah, that's a good question, John. I think for me, it wasn't the knowledge. I had smart analysts at the home office that, for me, it was just earning the trust, because that's ultimately, they're going to give you a bone. And then if they're going to bring their whole portfolio to you, they got to trust you, that you're going to manage it and be a good custodian of it. So for me, it was just earning that trust. And even more than that, it was just putting in the numbers. I would be in sales class and training class before I went out and started knocking on doors in St. Louis. And I'd look around and I'd be like, that guy or girl, they're going to kill it. They just got the swag. They got the it factor. And then you look at some people, I don't think they're going to do very well. And in some cases, those were right, but a lot, they weren't.
Yeah.
The person who...
Well, you can't judge part.
No. Yeah. The people who never kicked their feet up, had a good month and kicked their feet up, and then, were dry the next
hit their
month.
Quota by the first week, and then they just sit back.
Or people who just relied on, maybe they had the look or, the gift of gab, but the people who were constantly said, I'm going to get my 25 contacts in today, no matter what. Those were the folks that not just stuck around, because in that business, back when I was coming up, I think, you're basically a glorified telemarketer.
Yeah.
You're a stockbroker.
You're setting an appointment first.
Yeah. And 70 out of 100 were gone within the first year.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people didn't have the intestinal fortitude. They hired a lot of CPAs. And I was one of the early college people that they hired.
They were hiring
ex-military
people. Yeah.
Well, people who had a book of business.
Yeah.
They would hire preachers that had a book.
Had a network.
CPAs, attorneys, and then
So you
bring their book.
started fresh. And you weren't even in the town that you grew up in. So your network's in another town. So, I mean, that's really like you really had a hustle. Okay, so I have to ask you this then. What's more important, motivation or discipline?
Discipline.
I love it because I thought you could have asked me 5 years ago, I'd be, it's motivation. It's amazing. I'm 40. We're both 49 years old. We're still growing up because I so many things that I thought were the right thing 10 years ago. Now I would be like, no, they're not. They're absolutely not. Yeah. And I just learned this discipline thing.
I agree. I always was a big, I love motivation. And I think motivation's huge too, but you can't rely on motivation because, you're not fired up. It's fleeting. Yeah. If you're disciplined, even when you're not feeling it, and you're just like, you know what, I'm going to get my number. It's just like working out. The days that I don't want to work out are the days that I really got to go grind. And then I'm like, man, I feel so much better. I'm ready for a shower.
By the way, the thing that is typically the harder thing tends to be the better thing. So discipline, I think, is way harder than motivation. You can pump yourself up. You could jam some music, do a few push-ups. You can get yourself into a motivated state, but it's much harder to stay in a disciplined state, like a consistent. And because it's harder, I think it's better.
Yeah.
And I've realized that. So young guy, making your rounds, discipline, putting in the work, boom, $30 million book in 3 years. How'd you do it?
I think it was really about year one where people were like, this kid's going to be around. And I had great mentors, man. I had two guys that were totally influential. When I started selling, we would just come out of the .com. So 97, 97, 98, 99 were huge years in the market. The year I started selling, it fell out. It was the first three consecutive years we had down years. The bubble.
The Y2K.
It was the Y2K.
Yeah.
I had people coming in, and I had two good mentors that said, look, you're going to have people that are going to come in sometimes and want to buy some stock that their gardener's brother told them about. Do the right thing. Tell them that that's not wise. Get them to diversify. Edward Jones was a good firm, and they really did what's right for the client. And I could have sold something that I knew wasn't right for a customer.
Yeah.
So my mentors were like, listen, you do what's right for somebody, and they're going to go tell 2 or 3 people. But if you do what's wrong for somebody, they're going to go tell 10 people.
Yeah. So absolutely.
You have to. And I got very involved in the community. I was in the chamber, in the Rotary Club, just shaking hands and kissing babies.
Yeah. That, by the way, the internet at that point was the wild, wild west. So to your point, like if you did something wrong and somebody decided to say something online, like that would dominate.
Totally.
That would dominate because most small to mid-sized businesses or 1099 salespeople that were running an office or whatever didn't have the financial resources to like use SEO and to like just pile on content that was positive online. So to your point, if you had one person that decided to go on one of those chats and like say something bad, that moved right up to the top of
especially in a small town.
Oh my gosh, it just would spread. So between the people in town talking at events, but online it would spread. So you really had to be conscious of not protecting that network.
The firm that I worked for was a very conservative firm. There was things that and I don't, not throwing stones. There was other brokers in the area that did things that if I did, I would have been in the office answering my job.
Yeah. So those of you that are younger, maybe listening to this, Y2K, we were told in like 97, 98, 99 that when December 31st hit and that clock flipped over to January 1st, like the grid was going to go out, like the internet was going to explode. Our bank accounts were all going to be gone. And we all kind of like, we're like, Happy New Year.
And then nothing
happened. And then nothing happened. Then nothing happened. So what did happen though is you're making big time money and you're selling and you're really figuring this out. And then all of a sudden, people that build big books of business in the financial sector get recruited by other financial companies to essentially buy their book. That's like acquisition. They want to buy the territory. They want to buy that book. So tell us what happened there that led you from Indiana down to where the story really gets going.
So about year 3, I started, wholesalers would come see you and wholesalers would go see other firms. So wholesalers would go talk to the sales manager at Merrill Lynch or Smith Barney or Morgan Stanley and say, hey, that Josh kid at Jones, he's doing pretty well. So the sales managers would then reach out to you and say, hey, do you want to go grab a drink?
Yeah.
And then they'd say, hey, do you looking at making a change? And I wasn't. I was very happy at Jones. They took very good care of me. You qualified for 2 trips. There were world-class trips. And they paid for everything for you and your family twice a year. And I had a book of business. I didn't have a sales manager, and I ran my business. The business was changing then. It was going from transactional, buying and selling, to managed money. And Jones was a little conservative and didn't get into it until years later, and I was losing accounts from it.
Okay.
People wanted managed money.
They wanted it because they just want to offload it.
Because you're in line with the customer. You're not buying and selling.
Yeah.
You get a percentage based off what the portfolio does.
Yeah.
So I was looking to make a move then, and it was between Merrill Lynch and Smith Barney, and I ended up making a move and going over to Smith Barney in fall of 2000.
So rather than Smith Barney hiring 7 people and trying to build up the $30 million book, they were like, well, we could just pay this kid more
and
money.
when they do that, John,
there.
they're not interested. And there was guys who had $100 million books that they paid big money for.
Yeah.
They're more concerned about the future revenue on that and growing that. So, but yeah,
they're saying, hey, look, we can take the 30 million, turn it into 50 under our methodology. And by the way, we throw this kid a bone, right?
Yeah.
And he'll do it. So did you go with Smith Barney and go work there for an extended period of time, or did you just sell it out?
I went there. So what they do, how those work is they'll buy your book based on your last 12 rolling gross.
Okay.
But it's a promissory note. So you go there, you stay for 7 years, the note goes away.
Got it.
So say, in my case, it was a couple $100,000. I thought it was all the money in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I was 27. I was like, yeah, 200,000 just to come over. I'm rich. Yeah. And there was guys who were getting millions, guys that weren't rookies like me. They'd been around, had big books. So, it was changing a lot then. It was, kind of the Wild West in the 80s and 90s. And then 2000, the banks started buying everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Bank of America bought Merrill. Wachovia bought AG Edwards. They all started getting bought up by the banks. That's why it went to managed money, because banks don't like inconsistent earnings. And when a brokerage is transactional, it's inconsistent. When they can put a 1% on the whole portfolio, they know what the earnings.
They want to control the whole damn thing.
Correct.
Okay, so now all of a sudden, Smith Barney says you got to come out of Florida.
Yeah.
Right.
So you missed my arm.
Yeah, I'm sure that was such a tough decision for you to go from the middle of the suburbs of Indianapolis down to, was it Palm Beach?
I started in Boca Raton. And I lived on Las Olas inOrt Lauderdale.
I was like, horrible. Are you okay?
What is this? Like, how have I been
27 years old, flush with money.
Yeah.
And
listen, I grew up blue collar. We didn't go on, our vacation. I think we went to Florida one time to Fort Myers.
Yeah.
And I was like 9 or 10. So I'd never seen South.
And you were saying that like a white cloth dinner was at Red Lobster for you, girl.
Oh, yeah.
So now you're just walking around people that are, just got the...
And Fort Lauderdale is the Venice of America. It's the yacht capital. The Fort Lauderdale boat show is the biggest boat show. It's bigger than the Miami one. So there's yachts, super yachts, stuff everywhere. I'm like, what is going on down here?
I'm going to make bank. Okay, so how long do you stay with Smith Barney?
So I stayed with Smith Barney for 2 years. And, a year into it, I started a little side hustle.
Okay.
So my brother is a few years behind me. Was done playing football at Illinois State.
Were you just trying to like protect your money, infuse your cash? Like
no, he came down and wanted to hang out, and I was like, well, you're not just going to sit on the beach, so let me start. I always wanted to be, when I worked for Edward Jones, I was a business owner. Really.
Mm-hmm.
They put you in an administrator. They give you a branch office.
Administrators.
They say go out.
You're just buying the logo.
Yeah, I'm just paying them 40%.
Marketing, collateral.
I get 60%. They get 40%. All the marketing and a name. But I always wanted to own a business. But I was just, like I said, I came from a very humble beginning, small town. I didn't know anything about
little imposter syndrome. Like, I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah. So I finally I had a friend down there who owned a business and landscaping. And he's like, just go incorporate. And I was like, well, what do I do? He's like, I tell you what you should do is the shopping centers pay people for what they call day porter service. And that's to walk around in the morning. Pick up Publix is the big grocery down in Florida.
Yeah.
Like they dominate.
Yeah.
So you got these Publix
and Kroger
shopping centers. It's like the Jewel up there.
The
big
Jewel
shopping centers with the anchors and then all the other small tenants. Well, they pay for companies to, to clean the trash, just sweep the lot. And I started doing that and started picking up some contracts while I still have my day job. bought a truck, put my brother in a truck, and bought him. It was very little overhead, just some litter pickers, and we showed up and did a good job.
Yeah.
And they that went to, hey, you guys are pretty good at this. You show up on time. Can you do landscaping?
I want everyone to hear that for a second. Isn't that amazing? The thing that Publix really was found important was that you showed up. Just show up every
On
day.
the East Coast where I started, brother, it was, and this is nothing against Northeasterners. I'm down in the Midwesterner, but it was a lot of silver-tongued guys down there with service companies that would be ghosts.
Yeah.
They get the contract, you never see them.
Might not show
Well,
up.
you did a good job, and my thing was under promise, over deliver, because I'd seen people who talked a big game but didn't show up. So within 6 months, I had property. I just went to property managers and door knocked. I'd go to a shopping center. I'd see who was leased and managed by it.
Yeah.
I'd go home. I'd find all the addresses and.
Oh, that's easy at this point.
Yeah,
you're all the Edward Jones stuff. That's
I just
easy.
go on and say, hey, I put together a little logo and some business cards, and I didn't know squat about it. And within a year, we had been asked to do landscaping. So I subbed that out until
They're like, can you do landscaping? He's like, yeah, absolutely. Does anyone know how to do landscaping?
No, and I'd sub it. I'd sub it out. I told them until I was doing, had $100,000 a month coming in landscaping, and I went and bought my own. I got asked to do parking lot lighting. I got asked to do pressure washing.
So you do a good job.
Yeah.
You get diversification by request.
We were a full facilities management company that did everything from parking lot lighting, day porter service, filling potholes, covering up graffiti. Then they start asking me, hey, a tenant left overnight. A lot of tenants fall behind on rent.
Yeah.
They'll just leave. Can you go in there and clean it all out and get it ready?
You're doing demo.
So then I start doing demo. And then they say, hey, can you do construction? And down in Florida, you got to get a general contractor's license. It's very regulated down there because, there's old.
You're building on sand.
Exactly. So I started subbing out GC work. And I didn't have control over it. I couldn't make any money because they're making 20% and there's low margins. So I went and got my general contractor's license. And I'm not a construction guy.
No, but you're a sales
guy.
Guess what? You can hire people to do the work. But the one thing about construction that's interesting is oftentimes it's a construction expert who starts the business that doesn't know anything about sales and marketing. They don't know the business of the business part. So their work is absolutely fantastic, but it's kind of a shame. They do like the best work, but nobody knows who the heck they are and they can't get business. So they're kind of on the slow boat to China because all their business is referral based. And that's cool too, but it takes a little bit longer. You're able to have explosive growth and diversification because you know how to sell.
Well, and you're absolutely right there. And I was smart enough to hire people who knew how to get the job done.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is say, yeah, I can do this. And then you don't do it right, you shoot yourself in the foot, and then you've got 5 other services that they're canceling you on.
Yeah.
So I made sure before, we did it that I had a good sub that could do it. And then I made for sure before I brought it in-house that I had a team that could execute the work. So on the growth side, you're right. Again, it was referrals. I would talk to one big real estate investment trust that owns 8 different Publix anchored shopping centers. And I'd say, hey, who does the other coast over there? Who does over in Naples? Oh, we got a friend. So I'd go talk to that property manager and have a referral. And then as I got into construction, I said, who's the construction managers who run this? Because they're 2 different things. And just a lot of it was word of mouth. I've done advertising for 25 years, starting at Edward Jones, from having my name up on a billboard to shopping carts, like whatever. The best advertising and the most, that's free is word of mouth.
So you're kind of like you're almost at the top of the mountain at the first mountain. Like money's rolling in. Your brother's making money, so you feel good because your older brother, and you've set up younger brother's thriving. You got this kind of family business thing that's going. Mom and dad are probably super proud because the brothers are working together and they're doing their thing down in Florida.
We were not just working together, we lived together.
You're living together, like it's all happening. Like that's kind of a parent's dream. I mean, like I got 3 boys. I mean, if they started a business together and they were thriving, I'd be like, this is amazing. But all the while, what you don't even realize yet, and what is not really showing itself yet, is there's still some underlying baggage that's happening from the military experience, which we'll get into, but that's kind of there. It's there, but it's not really hitting yet. And it's kind of buried because you're seeing so much success, right? So now all of a sudden, all this success is happening. cool projects, I'm sure, happening. You're doing work with some, Public's a big company. You get in with them. I'm sure you're doing some commercial work with big companies. You're probably hanging out with some affluent people now because now you're affluent and these things are starting to happen. But you're also in a party scene, right? You're down in a pretty cool thing, which leads you um, to a marriage, right? And building a family. Take us from there.
Yeah. So during that first 5 years in Fort Lauderdale, I migrated over to Naples. You go across Alligator Alley. You got, Southeast Florida, Miami, Fort Myers, West Palm, and then you go straight across 75, which they call Alligator
On the Gulf
Alley.
side now.
And then you got Naples, Fort Myers, up to Sarasota. So I made my way over to Naples, and I kind of, back when I was down there 20 years ago, John, most of the Northeasterners were in Southeast Florida, and most of the Midwesterners were in Naples, where they retired, Naples, Fort Myers. So I kind of just gravitated to that area, and that's where I set up my corporate headquarters on Fifth Avenue in Naples. I met a young lady from Chicago coming out of law school, and things went quick. I waited 35 years for the right one, and we got married and had 4 kids within 4 years. And yeah, things were going well. Business was doing really, really well. But you're right. The PTSD stuff, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't deal with that I should have dealt with many years ago. And I kind of, I was in the military in 96 to 2000. It was kind of like, you had some trauma, whether it was like battlefield trauma, military sexual trauma, whatever trauma you had, it's kind of rub some dirt on it, get back in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think the VA does such a good job in the military of making sure if you had trauma, they're going to make sure you get counseling. They're going to make sure you take care of your mental health. Back then, it was kind of, when it comes to the military sexual trauma, it was don't ask, don't tell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a policy, don't ask, don't tell under Clinton, where if something happened, like in my case, where I had military sexual trauma, I didn't want to report it because, it was by an admiral.
Yeah.
And I'm a junior guy. And, and that's kind of, I didn't want anything to hold up my schooling and my training and all that. So, that kind of, that's how I dealt with things always in sales.
So you just pack that.
I just pack it away. Yeah. If I'm going and mental health is so important. That's what my whole new career is going to be revolved around is mental health. But it's so important in sales. Like sales is a grind, man. It can afford you an amazing lifestyle and it's a great career, but it wears on you after a while. And, I did it for 25 years, even owning my own business for 15 years. I was the sales guy.
IT decision makers, this might sting. Frustrated with IT issues, security threats, and the stress of your technology infrastructure? Your technology should blend seamlessly with your business objectives. Technology infrastructure management with limited resources can be exhausting and counterproductive. Do you have an MSP but still have problems and technical hiccups? GSD's advisement, proactive maintenance, cutting-edge cybersecurity, cloud solutions, data backup, and local 24/7 help desk can change the game. Your technology should outpace your business operations to allow for growth, and proactive strategies should prevent issues before they arise. Get back your time and your money with GSD. Drive business forward. Leave the technology to GSD. GSDnow.com. But you didn't even realize that these things, like, they were there, but you didn't even realize that they were actually impacting you the way that they were. So, just the idea of being in a straight commission sales position is stressful in itself. So much rejection, so much pressure. You don't know, look, if you have a bad week, like, your pay is different than the next week. If you have a really, really great week, you got to manage the fact that you have a tendency to want to take the foot off the gas pedal, and you can't do that, right? So there's these ups and downs that you have to manage as a salesperson. But meanwhile, you decide to go start your own business, and then there's the stress of that, right? So even though you were successful, you're still dealing with a whole bunch of stress.
Totally. Yeah. And it got to, the first 10 years of my business, John, we were, I subbed a lot of work out still. So half my work was sub, half of it was in-house. And I had probably 10 to 20 employees on any given, and then a couple key employees, my brother being one. I about 10 years in, I I hitched my wagon to a major retailer, Walmart, and several others. And then I went national, just not from Florida.
So your company went from nice, sustained, controlled, profitable growth to essentially 80% of your revenue now is with one place.
I'm an investment guy, and I'm all about diversification.
And you knew that was
Put your eggs in one basket, but it was too good.
Yeah.
It was, I blew up with them. I had 50 employees in all 50 states working as service technicians for Walmarts, also for Best Buys, for Kohl's, Target. We did service work. And the big portion, it wasn't directly with those. It was through a third party. Yeah, there was a third party that was a big.
But you're on the vendor list.
I'm on the vendor list.
So you're one of 3 preferred.
Yep.
And they're going to take a bid, and they're going to make sure that they pass you enough, they pass the other vendor enough. They're going to keep you all in the game, and it's pretty much guaranteed revenue that's coming to you.
Yeah, we went from 3 to 5 million in sales to 8-10 million in sales.
Yeah,
pretty much overnight. Yeah, and I was never overhead heavy. I had a few trucks and things like that. But once I got into the service work, I had $1 million line of credit with Ford. I mean, I had a fleet of 35 transit vans running, all across the country. So it was good while the getting was good, but you never put all your eggs in one basket. It was a rookie mistake made by a veteran. I knew people intimately at that company, and there was promises made and there was contracts signed, but ultimately it didn't work out.
So what didn't work out?
Once I developed all their markets, they undercut me and started driving my prices down to where I was breaking even. And I was like, guys, I can't take all this. So then they can do all this to break even.
So what happened then?
They parted ways. So that's when I really got heavy into construction. I had to pivot and say, okay, what am I going to do with this whole fleet of vehicles I'm bringing in from all across the country?
What'd you do?
Brought them all in and started getting heavy into commercial construction and started picking up multi-million-dollar contracts where we'd go in and do an assisted living build where it was a $100 million build in Naples, and there was a $5 million carpentry package, where we'd do the rough and finished carpentry. So now I've got 30 construction guys on a project, and you're waiting to get paid. They're straining you out. It's just it was a lot of stress at the time. I had a growing family. Having 30 construction workers, John, was just as much drama as having 30 hairdressers. Everybody's got a problem in the day. Hey boss, I need a loan. I got so going on. I'm like, I need you on the job, and I need you to leave home at home.
I've heard those stories that with there's a lot of great people, but you're dealing with a lot of people that have lives and they have things going on. And
I'm good cop. I'm the sales guy. My brother was bad cop. I'm the, he would actually be like, hey, stop giving these guys loans. I'm trying to discipline them.
Yeah.
I'm a yes guy usually trying to
help
get sales.
So did you get taken advantage of?
I did.
Okay. And what happened?
Well, there was at this point, I had some personal issues going on in the marriage, and we were struggling, and it was bringing up a lot of the old PTSD.
Stress was causing that.
Major stress.
Yeah.
Major stress. So at this point, when I lost that contract, or when I gave that contract up and then tried to pivot and do the construction, things were it was the end.
Just your mind was.
Yeah. My goal was to run that business for another 10 years and then sell it. And that was my retirement, and it didn't work out. So that was a tough pill to swallow. And at that point, I just got out from under it and said, listen, it's affecting my health now. I'm stressed. I don't feel it's affecting my relationship, my marriage. So around 2020, I got out of the business, and, we were having some marriage struggles. So we left Naples, and all 3 of our kids were born down in Naples from 14 to 18. So we came back up to Chi-Town, had it planned in 2019, a big, huge estate move. And right before the movers were supposed to show up, COVID hits, it's all planned.
Yeah.
And you start hearing about this COVID thing. And we were supposed to have them move us on April 1st of 2020, which was right when everything was shut down. Matter of fact, funny story.
The 2-week curve did not curve.
No. So get this.
It didn't flatten.
I had United Van Lines set up to move us, 2 huge semi trucks, because it was a big move. So I was afraid that we wouldn't get our stuff for a month.
Yeah.
So I stopped all that, got all my construction guys to come over and pack everything up professionally. And my brother and I drove
the trucks.
semis.
Yeah.
And the good news is we're not semi drivers. There was nobody on the road.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
and I'm also pulling, like, I'm not just driving a semi. I'm pulling my Harley behind me too,
Popping wheelies,
pulling the trailer. So I'm like, stay right behind me. Oh, we don't know how to reverse these things, so we're only going to stop at, like, truck stops, go right in, get gas, and keep going. So we got moved up to the north suburbs in the spring of 2020.
Okay.
And
so you move up. Have you sold the business now?
yeah, I've gotten out from it.
You sold the business, so you're pretty flush.
Yeah.
You're flush cash wise.
Yeah.
Are you happy?
No.
Okay. So did you break? I'll just be blunt.
Yeah.
There had to be a break point.
I think I had brought personal problems from down in Florida up here. And, my ex-wife at the time, wanted to move. We went through a divorce in 19, reconciled at the end, thank God, because my kids were young, so I got another 2 years with them. And then we brought the same problems up to Chicago. So within a year, we filed for divorce again. And at that point, the PTSD in my past had really caught up with me, like, big time.
So like so many, myself included, you look to numb it because you're not supposed to talk about it. You're a man, and especially you, because you're a vet and you're a business owner. And by the way, you're rich. So what are you complaining about, right? So you're not supposed to talk about it. And so you do what so many have done. You look to numb it. And your choice of numbing it was to run away from it a bit and go down to the bar, right? And then what you guys haven't seen is off camera. Joshua is like JT here, right? Like there's a Joshua and then there's a JT. So JT is like gonna own a room, man. Like he is on fire. He comes in like a bolt of lightning, just personable, shook every person in the building's hand. What's going on? Took a moment to talk to him. So there is like a genuine heart. There's a passionate person that is just like wants to be out there. And you're probably just absolutely confused. Like, where did JT go? And you're just numbing that.
John,
so take us from there.
You're so right. And I appreciate that. I think that's, other than my discipline, my passion has gotten me to where I'm at. I'm a passionate person. I do care about people. But yeah, I lost myself, man. I was completely lost. I had 3 young kids that were in my bed every morning, every evening. And then, I'm at some hotel and
sleeping in your car some nights, sleeping at your parents some nights.
Wherever. Hanging out in places
but all you know
hanging out in places I shouldn't be hanging out, doing things I shouldn't do.
All you know is the kids aren't there. And that's just tearing you up. And because of that, that actually opened up the door for the PTSD to really jump in.
Correct.
Because if those of you that maybe battle with depression and anxiety, when one bad thing happens, it almost triggers you to feed it with more bad things. So you keep going rooted deeper. That they talk about the spiral, right? So you think about a spiral, it's a wide thing. So it's typically one thing. And then what ends up happening is like you just kind of like keep going and you dig deeper and deeper and you look for things that were way back in your past. And as bad as that is, I kind of feel like you have to do it in order to get to the what's the actual root. And so the root for you was this whole PTSD thing that was happening from your Navy. You want to share that? Do you not want to get that deep?
Yeah, like I'm not, it took me 25 years to talk about that. And I was at the VA for some mental health treatment and some substance abuse. I was drinking a ton, way too much. And I've never had a problem with alcohol. And I wasn't drinking to have fun. I was drinking to numb the pain and just fall asleep because I miss my children dearly. And things just, I feel like, again, I waited 35 years to find the right person, start the right family. And 12 years later, it just didn't work out. That's life. And that was a hard pill to swallow. And it took a long time for me to just let that go and to forgive myself. And it wasn't until I had a very good therapist who said, "Hey, do you want to talk about some of this stuff that's in your service record? Your military sexual trauma, some of your PTSD." I said, "No, I don't talk about that." And she pushed and pushed. And finally, I agreed to go through a PTSD program then. And it was an 8-week intensive program to where daily, she dug in there. And it took a long time to really get the story out. But man, it changed everything for me.
How did you forgive yourself? And what?
For
what
me,
were you?
it was my higher power, and which in my case is my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You know, he lived a perfect 33 years on this earth, and had a horrible death for our sins. So I figured, hey, if he could forgive me, then I can forgive me. And that's what really changed things, was I leaned into my faith. I grew up in a house of faith, always considered myself a Christian, but I really wasn't.
Yeah, there's being, and then there is.
100%. Yeah.
Like, you can be Christian, but then there's actually having the humility and giving it up, like releasing it and giving it to God, giving it to Jesus.
There were so many people and therapists who helped me, John, but it wasn't, when you're in a full depression, and I never believed in depression. I never had compassion for people with mental health. And my whole life is about it now, because it punched me square in the mouth at 47 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
I got depressed, and I was like, what is this feeling? And
what did it feel like? Can you explain that?
I had never felt anything like that, where I didn't want to get out of bed. I'm, like you said, I'm shot out of a cannon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the morning. I mean, it'd be daddy diner with the kids, young kids, and I'm ready. I'm fired up. It's 5:30 in the morning. Let's go. Let's have a great day. I love getting up. When I was depressed, as soon as morning came, I was like, God, just get through the day so I can go back to bed.
So all the things you love to do, you just stopped doing.
Had no motivation to exercise, no motivation to get out and golf anymore, no motivation to play tennis, no motivation. And I isolated. And that's the worst thing for me, because I'm a communicator. If I'm isolating,
So what's happening in your head? I'm asking you these questions from curiosity,
Sure.
but I know the answer.
Yep.
Because we've talked about it.
Self-doubt, self-loathing. How did I get in this position? Never really poor me, but how's it
trying to piece it?
How did I lose everything after working for it for 47 years? This is not how I was supposed to. How am I going to get it back? I'm 47.
Were you
27?
Were you ashamed and embarrassed? Like, people were going to look at you like
100%.
Yeah.
I've always cared what people thought, and I don't now. I really don't.
Yeah.
So not in a bad way. I know with my faith and my discipline and my love for my children and my love for my family and my close, I have a very small circle. And I've heard a quote, don't ever cross a man with a small circle.
Mm-hmm.
That's a man who can stand on his own. He's got a small circle for a reason.
That too.
Yeah. Peterson.
It's very good.
It is. So the first and foremost, it was my faith. I leaned into God, and he gave me the strength to get up and exercise.
But you hit a break point.
Yeah,
hit a break point.
Hit a break point.
And that break point was making some tough decisions. Thank God you weren't capable of doing it.
Oh yeah.
But one of those things,
there was times at the darkest, pal, that and that's what my whole mission in life now is, to talk. If I can save one person from making a long-term, doing a short-term decision based on, that's going to be long-term, because I was there, man. I had 2 6-month depressions, one in 2022 and one in 2023. And I didn't think I could ever get that low, ever. Like, I never in a million years thought I would be that guy.
It's intense.
And it changed my whole perspective on everything.
Yeah.
Especially my compassion for people struggling, because I was there.
So one of the things that you did mention is that luckily you didn't have the strength to complete the mission.
Correct.
But you prayed for something that is extremely, I have a knot in my throat right now saying this, but you prayed that you would get cancer.
I did. Yeah. For about 4 months. I didn't have the strength to pull the trigger that was there many, many, many nights. I didn't want to leave that legacy for my kids. And I think that the loving God that I serve is compassionate, and I don't think you would, be judged for doing that, but I wasn't going to find out. And that's kind of what saved me. But so I was like, God, just give me cancer. Like, I don't want to live anymore. I don't like life. This isn't me. I'm not going to ever be happy again. I'm never going to find happy. I'm not going to have my kids with me anymore. I waited 34 years to have kids. Now I'm, a weekend warrior father. I lost everything. I'm too old to build it back up. And guess what? I went and got sober. I went through my PTSD. I finally got the strength from God that like, okay, I built it in my 20s. I can build it in my 40s.
You're smarter
I'm
now.
a lot smarter.
And you got dad muscles now.
I got dad muscles now, baby. So once I get finally feeling great last April, I went for a checkup and I had my first colonoscopy, and I'm coming out of that, and I know the doc. He's a friend. We play tennis together, and he's like, you got an issue, dude. I'm still like waking up. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you have a mass. I'm like, not cancer. He's like, it's cancer. I'm like, well, how do you know? It's like, we haven't done pathology. He's like, Josh, I've been doing this for 25 years. Like, it's the size of a tennis ball, like I could barely get the camera around it. So I'm like, all right, I got 28 Irish Italian cousins, 14 aunts, uncles. There's no cancer in my family. Like, there's no way. So he's like, well, we're going to send you for MRIs to see where it's spread immediately. And then I did all that. And then I went back home and I was like, researching everything. I'm free and my dad's like, dude, just watch a movie or something. Like, wait till you hear from them. You're going to drive yourself crazy. So I watched a movie, and then after the movie, I'm like, wait a minute, did he just tell me I have cancer? Me? I have cancer? So sure.
You're having an out of body.
Yeah.
You're like driving.
I felt healthy.
You're driving an hour. You have no idea how you got there. It was like
great.
Like in your head.
And in great shape. It was, I had gotten sober. I had gotten, dealt with the depression, dealt with the PTSD. Everything was great. And then at the end of it, he tells me I have cancer. So he calls me 2 days later, and sure enough, good news, bad news. You have stage 3 rectal cancer.
And you have cancer right now.
Yeah. So he said, good news is it didn't spread that we can see. So we're going to have you do radiation treatments. I did 28 radiation treatments last year. Did a couple rounds of chemo. And they're going in to take it out in a month, and it'll be like it never existed. God gave me what I asked for, but he had enough grace and compassion to not let it spread. Because the first place colorectal spreads is the liver, the lungs, and the brain. I mean, I could be sitting here fighting for my life right now. And
so do you believe that's God showing his power, his capability,
100,
but also saying to you, like, be careful what you wish for? And also the fact that it didn't spread, like that's, according to like what your doctors have said, is like the stage 3 in the place that it's at is going to go to the kidneys, the liver, it's going to spread, it's going to get into the blood, it's going to like take off, right? So the fact that it isolated is somewhat of a...
It had probably been growing for 2 years, he said.
Yeah.
Like all through that mess. And I'm a firm believer. I'm an athlete. I know my body very well. I've never, I've played high level sports, a lot of missions in the Navy. I've never had stitches. I've never had a broken bone. I've never really been sick a day in my life. Never been in a hospital. And now the last year I've, had 2 surgeries, getting ready to have my final one, had more blood taken out of me and MRIs and all this. So I know it came from the mind. Like, you can manifest so much stuff. And I wore myself out. I was drinking a lot, but it was more the stress. I'd given up. I'd given up on life.
So we're back. We got the get shit done attitude again, right?
Whether you believe it.
Okay, so walk us through how you did that. Because you've overcome a lot now.
So when I got diagnosed, I just, I'd made up my mind, hey, I'm in great shape. I'm going to take it to another level. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to eat even healthier. I'm going to grind and get after it. I got living to do. Thank God it didn't spread. It didn't spread. So let's get this out of me. And then I want to move on. So during that process, I was like, you know what? I really want to like get out of sales and entrepreneurship and do something else. But what do I do? That's all I've ever known. And I've always wanted to speak, because that's all I've ever done is, talking to prospects and customers. So
you were speaking one-on-one. You want to speak to the masses.
That's right. Yeah. So I think God was watching over me 25 years ago when I got my undergraduate from Indiana. I got very good grades. So the VA is sending me back to school. When I decided what I want to make a career and be a mental health counselor and pay forward what saved me, mental health counseling, I finally put the bottle down and said, I got to go talk this shit out. I got to go talk everything out from 25 years ago up until now and get it out of me and communicate, because I would communicate with people if I'm selling to them, but never about my problems.
No,
I don't have problems.
Because it's so easy to talk surface. It's very, very difficult to go all the way back.
Especially
to
for guys like
roots.
us, like we're old school.
They just want to move to the next
The
day.
new generation didn't understand. Back then, I mean, you didn't talk about that shit.
No.
Like if you went and saw a counselor, people were like, that dude's crazy.
No, if I told my friends when I was in my 20s that I was depressed, they would have like put me in a headlock and be like, slam this beer and shut up.
100%.
Like they were like, what? Dude, we're going to a party. Like, here, drink this. You know what I mean? There was none of that stuff. And for me, there were signs. Like in college, I'd stay in my room for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And my friends would be like, dude, you going out? No, I'm not going out. I'd be like, okay. And they just go. And then I'd stay in the room by myself. And
Well, John,
they just thought I was in a bad mood.
That's right. And you know, in our careers, you've been in high level sales. Sales, like I said, is a grind.
Oh, yeah.
Mental health is so important in everything, but especially sales, because it's ups and
You have to. Well, you're transferring energy. If the energy's wrong, you're sending that off. And by the way, you're wearing it, and people who have been through it can sniff it out and see it on you. Your aura's off. Your confidence level just isn't there. You might think you're covering it up, but it's there for people
if you're
that
selling
understand.
out of desperation, because you gotta get that.
I can
commission.
sniff that out.
Oh, no, this guy's desperate.
Hard.
He's really trying to hard sell me.
So this has motivated you now to find a purpose. And I have a feeling, and if I'm wrong, tell me, but I have a feeling that you did a lot of what you did just because you were talented, you were capable, you were smart, you were personable, you were energetic, you were competitive. But I don't know that you had a purpose.
I didn't. I think my purpose, sales, like I said, it's a grind, but it can afford you a great lifestyle. And I grew up very blue collar. You know?
But it wasn't like your thing, because you'd still be doing it. That was your
I think
thing.
my thing, God dealt with me for 48 years to really get my attention. And I'm stubborn, bro. So it takes a while to get my attention. And
God is more stubborn.
He's more stubborn. So, after losing a business that I wanted to do for retirement, in a sense, because, I really didn't sell it. I just got out from under it. After losing a marriage that I waited 35 years to find the right one, after losing a lot of money that I built up, during a divorce, I've decided that I want to do something all for the glory of God. And I think that, if I'm blessed with money again, that's great. And I'm sure I will be. It's not what drives me anymore. So I decided I want to start a career in mental health counseling. And I was fortunate enough to apply to New York University, Pepperdine, Wake Forest, and Northwestern. I got accepted to all of them. And
Let's go.
Yeah, so I'm going to Northwestern, baby. And it's an accelerated, full-time, 18-month, usually it's 3 years for a master's. So, while I'm getting my degree in the next year and a half, I want to start building my following out there and helping people. And I can touch more people. If I'm seeing 2 or 3 patients a day about mental health, if I can get my word out there on social media, speaking, I'm being asked now to go and speak to cancer foundations, to tell my story, and that helps them get donors, and
this is the first podcast you're on.
So I have a good friend who's an influencer, and she's like, I saw that you're just getting on social media. I was never on social media. I never used it for, I think for business, I had a guy who did that for our construction project, but I never used it personally. I just got on it within a year.
Yeah.
And she's seeing me post a lot of stuff. She's like, and she's a big influencer. She's like, I see something that you might, your story's pretty special and unique. So that was one of the things I said, well, help build me a following. I'm all in. And she suggested, podcasting. So I knew John because I always saw him on LinkedIn as a Chi-Town boy. And I'm like, I don't know any podcasters, but let me reach out to John. So yes,
it's just a fantastic story. So look, where you started, and the fact that you have climbed the mountain, fell off it, dust yourself off, climb it again, find out you have cancer, still battling cancer, but it's clean, find God, and then decide that you've now figured out your purpose. At 49 years old, you've really figured out your purpose, like what you were placed here to do.
I think, John, all those years in sales, God gives you certain gifts and talents. And I think he gave me a talent to talk to people, a talent to
light up,
persevere, to be disciplined. But that's not really using, now I'm really using my talents to help people. I'm going to help people. If I can help one person get out of what I was in once a week or once a month dude, that's so therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
That's more therapy for me than it is.
Absolutely. It'll light you up. That's better than any dollar that you could get.
Cool.
So how do you look in purple? You're going to Northwestern, man. You gotta rock that.
Yeah, I'm a Wildcat, man. I've always had, it was easy to choose Northwestern because I'm a Midwest guy.
Yeah.
I've always had a great reverence for Northwestern. So, the program's fully online until I start doing my clinicals. But yeah, I'm gonna go walk around.
By the way, by the time you get that,
I'm like Billy Madison, back to school, baby.
yeah, let's go. Let's go. Hey, when you get that, hello, penguin. When you get that, diploma, man, like that's gonna be a day for you, right? Yeah. And so, what happens after that? We get our own practice. We go work for another practice. What's the? So we know you got to get the graduate degree and you got to get all the education, and then what's in your vision? Like, what's the thing? How are you gonna map this out?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know how to work for somebody. I've worked for myself for 25 years now. So I'll set up my own practice. One in Chicago and one in Florida.
So you can bounce.
But I really want to be able to get a following online and to be able to speak and to go to cancer foundations, speak to churches. There's a church up in the north suburbs, the Chapels. There's 8 or 9 of them in Lake County. I want to get very involved in that.
Like Gray's Lake?
Yeah. Well, there's like 7 of them. There's one in Gray's Lake, Libertyville, Barrington.
You know, I know where it is because it's right by a really awesome golf course.
Oh yeah, of course.
So well,
that's the next
Stonewall Orchard.
That's the next podcast.
Yeah, we're going to do the golf course. That's right. Stonewall Orchard. That's the jam, man. They got a great course there. Well, I'm so excited that you have found yourself, and that this is a happy ending, and that you are climbing the mountain again, and you're going to help other people, and it's just a fantastic story. So, if you could leave us with a message that you really want to marinate with somebody to think about, what would be the message that you would leave somebody with?
Lean into your faith. Lean into your faith. Whatever your higher power is, lean into it. That's what really gave me the strength. That's what really turned my life around is leaning into my faith. I just think that there's so much good out there in a world we live in now that can focus on a lot of the negative. There's so much good to do out there. And I just feel so honored and blessed that I get to go help people for the next 40 years and help get them out of, the darkest of places and back into the light, baby.
I love it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you got a gentleman here who has found his purpose, and he's overcome a bunch, and he's about to make a journey to essentially build up his social media presence. So I need you to go to LinkedIn. I need you to go find Joshua Thompson. I need you to follow him. I need you to support him and encourage him, because he's about to go on a mission to probably help somebody, maybe somebody that is in your circle, maybe somebody that you know. I also know that Joshua is very open to connecting with people and communicating with people. So if you are feeling off, you feel stuck, you don't feel right, send him a DM on LinkedIn. I'm sure that he's going to communicate. Feel free to do the same with me. And remember to fill yourself with positive thoughts, positive intentions. Remember to write them down. Remember to start with I am, because God lives inside of you. So if you say I am, it activates God, and you will in fact become the thing that you say that you are. And lean into God. And I got to tell you, things will happen for you in the way that you want. You don't have to do it by yourself. You're not alone. There's people that have been there, done that, and bought the t-shirt. You're listening to 2 of them right now. We know how you feel. And by the way, if you're not that somebody, but you know somebody, lead them our way. We can certainly have a conversation with them. Just know that you are loved. That's the key. Joshua, I want to remind you, sir, you got shit done.
All right, brother.
Cheers.
Love it.
Can your business handle 15% growth? If yes, you have to engage with 2020 Design. They fuse data and creativity to stop the scroll, break through the noise, and grab the attention of your future customers. 2020 Design will create competitive, click-worthy campaigns, design and build custom websites, spark your social media presence, and structure email campaigns that get right to your audience, the decision maker. Let's boost attention and awareness, which allows you to convert more sales. Check them out at 2020design.com. That's the number 20, TWENTY, design.com.